can't get mad at a dog for barking, right? Dogs are going to bark. It's what they do. So can't get mad for haters hating.
No.
That's what they do.
Our cat likes to sleep in our closet under our clothes, but she'll wake us up in the morning if we don't close the door. So now this is the Maine Coon, and she scratches and scratches. And she cries like a baby, too. It's like on the baby frequency. It's like, wah, wah, wah. Wakes you up. Pets. They make great pets.
Right.
They make great pets.
Very good. Okay, let's do this thing. 3, 2, 1. You may be crying like Sigmund's cat over your fantasy team, and that's where you've got to go to the waiver wire, and that's why we are here for you with the hotness, readiness, ready to go to talk about the hot waiver wire pickups in week 7. Yes, that's right, week 7. Things go by pretty quickly around here. So before we jump into who to add and who to drop and all those sorts of things, we have to check in with Dr. Jene Bramel to go over the injured QBs here entering week 7. Dr. Jene, take it away. Bloom, sometimes there's a lot of help. Sometimes there's not much help. This is upgrade, downgrade, waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. And Matt Ryan, 15 to 30% because, that defense sucks. And if Julio's healthy, Matt Ryan's got to sling it to just stay in games.
Yeah, we're wide netting it. And by the way, folks, if you look at the ownership percentages on the different public sites out there like Yahoo or ESPN, we're not wide netting it enough, really. So Matt Ryan might be out there after his slump. By the way, let me take a step back before we get into Matt Ryan. Take a step back. It's week 7, Cecil. Halfway point of the fantasy football regular season. And you will notice that the numbers are going to start going up. There's not going to be as many 1%ers. The threshold for someone to get to 10 to 20% or 20 to 40% is getting lower each week because, like your timeouts, your waiver wire dollars don't help you. Maybe some leagues do. You carry them over year to year. That's an interesting proposition. The point is, though, it's time to spend to help your team. And even though these pickups might not be as high quality or have the range of outcomes as the pickups early in the year and can't help you for as long, it's time to do that. Matt Ryan, like you said, Julio's back. The defense is still giving them solid enough game scripts, although they were good against Kirk Cousins for a while there. I think that the recipe is going to be there. And you saw Matt Ryan. It might have been just as simple as a healthy Julio Jones and his fantasy prospects, making things a lot easier for his fantasy teams. And this week against Detroit, I'd be comfortable putting him in if I didn't have an obvious play.
Okay, dokey. Then let's move on to 10 to 20% for Carson Wentz. Again, wide netting it. Although they say more Jalen Hurts could be involved, Bloom, but that's more gadget stuff.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. Everyone needs their Taysom Hill. Carson Wentz. I mean, what a valiant performance, by the way. We're down to even the second stringers going down on the offensive line. And, it's basically like, it's like a great film. This should come out of your writer's mind, Again, it's like one of those expeditions where 250 men go to the jungle and like 3 emerge, It's basically like Travis Fulgham and Carson Wentz and Richard Rodgers and then J.J. Arcega-Whiteside blocking downfield. Like, come on, guys, let's see if we can do this. But they took the Ravens to the brink, even though the Ravens were dominating them up front. This week, you get a Thursday night game against the Giants with Deshaun Jackson returning. And even though you lose Miles Sanders, you lose Zach Ertz, you get Deshaun Jackson back. And I think
maybe Dallas Goedert, too.
Is Goddard back Thursday?
He's cleared to return. It's not a given that he'll be back, right? But we're getting close.
Rager potentially back and so on. So it's a revolving door of the players that he's going to play with. But considering what he's done, I think that in the matchups that are favorable, we might give Carson Wentz the benefit of the doubt. And like our fantasy quarterbacks that we generally gravitate to, even when things are tough for him, he's running more. He's getting some more rushing touchdowns. So all things considered, Wentz could be viable after all.
Wentz could be that guy, and if not, you go to the 1% guys like Kyle Allen, Jimmy Garoppolo, and yes, even Phillip Rivers storming back. They're all 1%ers this week.
Yeah, and Rivers is on his bye, so you're not necessarily excited to get Rivers, but at least he showed that if as a desperation play, he can come through. And look, it was all quiet on the COVID front this week, but winter is coming, Cecil, and the community spread Look, having 3 starting quarterbacks, you never know when you're going to need that third. So if Rivers gets dropped, you might like him there. Kyle Allen had a couple of real nice throws to the corner of the end zone to account for his points. Had a chance to win on a 2-point conversion against the Giants. This week, the Dallas defense. It's going to really test you DFS lineups. You know, how much do you believe in the Dallas defense being bad? Do you think Kyle Allen even can take advantage of that and his targets, Antonio Gibson? But intriguing, you know, this week Ryan Fitzpatrick is on bye, Lamar Jackson's on bye. So if you have to go to the waiver wire and you get a chance to exploit the matchup with Dallas, that's not bad. Jimmy Garoppolo. See, what do we think about Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, his best plays to Deebo Samuel were like little pity pat catches, you know?
Yeah.
Patty cake kind of stuff. And okay, that worked against the Rams. There is something going around out there. And I wonder if Sean McVay doesn't respect Kyle Shanahan too much, because Jimmy Garoppolo's ADOT is, you know, on those passes measured in inches, not yards. And going up against Bill Belichick this week, I have a feeling Bill Belichick will know how to use that against the San Francisco offense. We'll see. But still, Garoppolo, confidence, baby steps, and at least he's viable. And again, this year, depending on how big your rosters are, having 3 starting quarterbacks, especially if your top 2 haven't gone through their bye yet, can be something that saves you.
Bill Belichick getting ready for that matchup. He's warming up. He's ready to go. And we are ready to move on from the quarterback position. And that means running backs. Important messages coming up very much quickly here next from Dr. Jene Bramel. Who are those injured running backs to look at in week 7? Look at him and then deal with it, Bloom. J.K. Dobbins, 25 to 50% if he's out there. Please, for the love of God, continue to use Dobbins more. Mark Ingram a little bit banged up. He might play, whatever is whatever. J.K. Dobbins is the best back on that roster. Speaking of that, Philip Lindsay is 25 to 50% as well. It is a Broncos show. We can throw in Jet McKinnon here, 20 to 40% if you'd like to, Bloom. But we saw it in a game. And with no pass targets either, by the way, Philip Lindsay was that guy. He's also a fast break running back, energy running back, big play running back, and they're going up against the Chiefs. You have to score a bunch of points. So Philip Lindsay, if he's out there, Bloom, we got 3 backs throwing in Jet McKinnon that we'll talk about here.
First of all, you got to love when the universe creates the segues. You know, you don't even have to have a segue because the stories of the league mesh that way. Our friend Eric Stoner had a good one. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. Philip Lindsay is the Ryan Fitzpatrick of running backs.
Interesting.
No matter how much they want to replace him,
right,
he still keeps playing too well, and they have to keep him in. You know, and Philip Lindsay, if he was left out there in his return from IR, enough said. And what's going to be very interesting is how the Broncos decide to divvy up the work. Melvin Gordon back this week, Cease? Probably.
Yeah, unless he's got quote unquote strep throat, you know what I mean? Like strep throat, guys.
Right. So we'll see. I think Lindsay deserves to be the first man out there and to have maybe the 60 and the 60-40. We'll see. Dobbins might well be the banana in the tailpipe every week. You know, that you can see there's just so much juice in his body. There's so much ability to create. He just needs opportunities. Mark Ingram, now the Ravens are on bye. Mark Ingram may or may not play in week 8. So the point is they're already looking at his ankle injury and saying week 8's not a sure thing. And then there's always a chance for re-injury. But what you really are hoping for, and we'll talk about Gus Edwards in a second too, is that Dobbins and Edwards show that they can just add more value to their touches, given enough volume, given a chance to get in a rhythm, than Mark Ingram at this point. So the door's creaking open for J.K. Dobbins. Don't let him be out there, even in short bench leagues. Jerick McKinnon. This one's tough too, Cease. How do we read this, right? Because, okay, McKinnon, Mostert goes down. First it's McKinnon and Wilson. McKinnon looks better than Wilson, even though Wilson's a little more productive for fantasy. Then the next week, McKinnon gets 90+% of the snaps. He led all running backs that week in percentage of snaps. And it's Jerick McKinnon year, barely seeing a football field for the last 2 years, and not exactly built to handle 90+% of the snaps. So that tells us, oh, Kyle Shanahan understands that he's good. Kyle Shanahan knows that he can count on him. Mostert comes back. McKinnon is now the backup. Mostert goes down. McKinnon's the first man off the bench. But then enter JaMycal Hasty, who we'll talk about in a minute. And Shanahan says, I like this Hasty kid better. And Hasty, with the game still on, it was not garbage time. Hasty's getting those touches and looking good. Now, I still believe in Jerick McKinnon's talent. I still believe in his talent as a receiver out of the backfield. He's not going to go away. But I also won't be surprised if Hasty is the more valuable 49ers running back, or we'll talk about Jeff Wilson too. Jeff Wilson makes this a 3-man committee, and it's just frustrating all around. But I'm inclined to give McKinnon the highest waiver wire value this week, knowing that Kyle Shanahan might not.
Well, it's hot hand approach, and that's what we hate about it. And Jerick McKinnon probably could have his role bloom as that change of pace big play guy like he did to begin the season.
Right.
And then the last 2 weeks have been sort of stinkers, and that means Hasty could get more snaps, more touches, but McKinnon could outperform him. So let's talk about him. And Gus Edwards, by the way, we're talking about backfields today and trying to capture windows here with the Ravens and the 49ers, 15 to 30% for Gus Edwards. Same thing for JaMycal Hasty. There is James White, wide netting it in case he's out there in PPR leagues because, their receivers are garbage.
Right.
Just absolute garbage. So more James White, please. Perhaps a trade for David Njoku. Has that happened yet? I don't know, Bloom. I just woke up. But, it's rumored. So let's see James White there if he's available.
Yeah, and with White, like you said, it's more the struggle target for Cam Newton than White playing well, but there you have it. Gus Bus gets the touchdown. It just makes sense that he should be that downhill runner. And it is reminiscent. It's funny because, the Ray Rice, J.K. Dobbins parallels have come up. Ray Rice not used heavily in his rookie year. LaRon McClain, remember LaRon McClain? It was LaRon McClain downhill smasher role that Gus Edwards could do well with. Even just the chance to get Edwards in week 8 against our Steelers, then, there's something potentially there for him. And if, again, he can get rolling, maybe they change the way they're looking at this backfield, although it's Dobbins with a higher ceiling. And then there's Hasty. And see, didn't you just feel it whenever, because we have the draft, but already, like the NFL teams, because we're degenerates, on the third day of the draft, we're already thinking about, when we're getting to the 6th, 7th round, who's not drafted, or who we know is not get drafted, but where are they going to end up? And the good organizations, usually, we didn't have the 30 visits this year, Cease.
Right.
But the good organizations use some of those 30 visits, the official visits, on players that they have no intent of drafting, but they want to get a closer look at because they want to know if they're going to be their priority free agents. And we also saw this year dangling a lot more signing bonuses in the $50,000, $100,000 range to these players. And didn't you just feel it when Hasty, knowing his game from Baylor, whenever the 49ers signed him, he's going to stick.
Yep.
He's going to look good in that system. Yeah, that's a fit. That's a fit. And sure enough, because what you see with Hasty is it's just the classic outside zone running back package that you want, right? Low center of gravity, runs with urgency, decisive, and the rest is history. Hasty looks great. And as I was putting together the waiver wire report this week, Cease, he starts out maybe as a 3 to 5%er, and then I think about it, I bump him up to like 5 to 10%, 10 to 20%. Then you hear that Mosert's going to go, okay, 15 to 30%. I'm not sure where. Look, if you prioritize Hasty over McKinnon, I'm not going to say you're wrong. Hasty is a guy now. Mostert, he should be back, and even on IR, probably week 12 is what we're looking at here with Mostert, because San Francisco has a week 11 bye. In those 4 games, Hasty could easily end up being someone you can plug in every week as a running back too, easily. So it's exciting, and these is what are the situations we live for in fantasy, Cease, right? Like those guys that we see. If Hasty, if the Jets had signed him or something like that, we'd say, well, but the right team signed him, And here we are now with the injuries and Kyle Shanahan making him active over Jeff Wilson last week. So that's part of why we're talking about Hasty this week.
Yes, and remember, luck is preparation and opportunity intersecting. So have that opportunity for a guy like Hasty. Production's there. People might be saying, why isn't Boston Scott higher, Bloom? 10 to 20%. We can throw in JD McKissick here, 5 to 10%, but whatever is whatever. Last time Scott played the Giants, people remember, because if you happen to play in week 17, he probably won your fantasy league with 3 touchdowns and 130 all-purpose yards. So Boston Scott here in this Miles Sanders situation. Again, it's a short week. Sanders is not going to play on Thursday night. Here comes Boston Scott, but 10 to 20%. People might say, I'm gonna pay a little more.
Yeah, 1 or 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks. I mean, with Sanders, it's not going to go on IR from what we can tell. Not going to play this week because it's a Thursday game. Week 8, well, they have a week 9 bye. So, okay, you missed 2 games. 2 games of Boston Scott. What's that worth? He hasn't looked good this year. He hasn't looked like the Boston Scott we saw at the end of the year last year. And, he's probably roughly in the same value range as the starter on the other side of the ball, Devontae Freeman. I mean, you throw him in if you have to because he's going to get volume. But I'm just not sure about Boston Scott. And that's why I think that he's more of a, okay, put your bids on the players that you're zeroing in on and then price and force, again, like 10% or something like that. Because, hey, it's a starting running back that's likely going to get 2 starts. But I just don't know what that's going to be worth. McKissick, these are the guys that save our bacon, right? You've injuries, and he might get you 10 to 15 PPR points. And he's facing Dallas this week. McKissick is just not going away, Cease, I mean, they have Antonio Gibson. They know what Antonio Gibson offers on every touch. But McKissick is an efficient football player. He executes. And in this offense, that's enough to be a cornerstone. Yeah. And, I mean, against Washington, he could make some plays for us this week. So, and McKissick, by the way, brings up the good old rock blocking too, where you may be facing somebody this week that maybe Miles Sanders was one of their starters. Maybe Raheem Mostert was one of their starters. And you're looking at their lineup and thinking they're probably going to have to go to the waiver wire to get a running back. Don't just let them have J.D. McKissick for free. All right? Hey, and Antonio Gibson could stub his toe, and then McKissick is getting even more work. So, yeah, J.D. has been better than J.K., as Diego, what's up, man, tells us in the chat room. So, and then there's LaMichael Pirine. Let's get the 1% out of the way here. LaMichael Pirine. Adam Gase is going to give him more work. Okay, I mean, it's the Jets offense. He probably has more value than Frank Gore, maybe even like on a week-to-week basis. And then Jeff Wilson. And stranger things have happened. Wilson has some bona fides in short yardage and in the passing game. Jerick McKinnon, not known for his health. JaMychal Hasty is still a UDFA with a quarter of play basically under his belt. So we cannot forget about Jeff Wilson in that San Francisco Minions banana
backfield. Here we go. We can never forget about our man, Dr. Jene Bramel, as we move to the wide receiver position. We take a look at the injured wide receivers here entering week 7. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at? Bloom, Deebo Samuel, 20 to 40%. So very deserving of his own mini segment here. And I know some people will be like, there's no way in hell he's available. We're wide netting it.
Yeah, we are. And short bench leagues, public leagues, he might be out there. Again, our app uses this, so I appreciate folks being indulgent and tolerant here. But it's that part of the offense that is basically the running game. Deebo Samuel is basically a running back running sweeps, but he runs them so well. He scored. He had a big gain breaking a tackle. He had the gain that put the game away. So, on one hand, I'm probably not going back to Samuel this week because Bill Belichick, as you pointed out earlier in the show already, sees Belichick saying, we're going to take that away. And Kyle Shanahan might be wise enough to say, okay, when we're showing that look, that's whenever we're taking the shot to Kendrick Bourne. That's whenever we're taking the shot to George Kittle up the middle of the field like they did on 4th down in that big play against the Rams. It'll be interesting to see the punch-counter-punch combination here. They miss Marquise Goodwin. I mean, they miss having somebody that can really stretch the field because that's the dimension this offense needs to punish defenses that try to crowd things too much because they do so well in that part of the game. But Deebo Samuel, just love his run after catch ability. And in this offense, that also makes you excited about Brandon Ayuk in the future, because Kyle Shanahan creates those opportunities for wide receivers, even if his quarterback can't.
Even if the quarterback is somewhat limited, but hey, 2-yard passes can turn into 70-yard touchdowns for Deebo Samuel. Christian Kirk, 12 to 25% as we're watching him work through that Cardinal system. Cole Beasley scored touchdowns, favored to Josh Allen, 10 to 20%. And Timmy Pats, that's right, Tim Patrick, he's the Broncos receiver coming through with those big plays, 10 to 20% for him as well.
Yeah, Patrick, I think, is just matching up better with Drew Lock's style than Jerry Jeudy at this point, because Patrick can go up and win those balls, and he has the ability. We've never doubted that. Cole Beasley evolving into Josh Allen's struggle target, and that's something he might need more than we'd hoped after we watched the first month of the year. And then there's Christian Kirk, and it might just be Dallas. This is going to be the question we ask every week, Cecil. Was it just, like, if you have Kenyon Drake and he finally did something for you, was it just Dallas? Was it just Dallas? I don't know, but I know that Kyler Murray's got that deep ball cooking, and Christian Kirk is facing Seattle this week, so he could easily keep that going. But we got to break in here.
I know, breaking news.
This one's surprising to me, but I guess we'll talk about, even in one quarterback leagues, Tua Tagovailoa. I'll have to update the waiver wire report. 3 to 5% guy or something like that. And maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick as a hold on. I don't know, because he was doing so many good things for us as a fantasy quarterback. But Miami's during their bye, they're reassessing. And I suppose it's a question, Cease. It's kind of a Thursday night topic, but they're 3-3, and certainly with 7 playoff spots, they can see themselves as a playoff contender. And no matter what you say, that helps your program. A playoff spot helps your program.
Right.
But maybe they've just seen enough behind the scenes to say that Tua's ready, and they maybe had an idea that when he's ready, regardless of how Fitzpatrick's playing, regardless of how the team is playing, we're going to let him start to learn on the job. But here we have it. I'm not going to doubt Brian Flores because of how they've handled the rebuild up to this point, but I am disappointed to know that Fitzpatrick will not be starting the next time the Dolphins take the field.
Yeah, that's his lot in life. We'll get back to wide receivers in just a little bit, Bloom. What are we at? James Washington, A.J. Green,
Yes.
Demarcus Robinson, all 7 to 15%ers here entering week 7.
And Washington's a tough one because when Deontay Johnson is back, and I think he should be back this week against Tennessee, now it's a 4-receiver rotation, and Chase Claypool is the most valuable.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. You can see with Washington, though, the problem with Washington is just opportunity, because he should be starting. See, how many teams around the league should Washington be starting for? Like at least 10 or 15. I mean, he's an NFL starting quality receiver. And we even saw a beautiful double move combined with Ben's pump fake there for the touchdown. So Washington is somebody that is always an emergency play that could come through, but also maybe somebody that you wait and see if there are any other injuries, because you know that the combination, especially with Chase Claypool likely getting the attention of defenses, is exciting there. A.J. Green is back, and Steven Ruiz, always likes reading his work, suggests that maybe the Patriots should try to trade for Green, which is an interesting thought, because Green can at least get open enough in the short and intermediate zone to do the things that Julian Edelman's not doing, that N'Keal Harry is not doing for this offense. So it would fit the Patriots' MO. It would fit the Bengals in a rebuilding year. Just keep that in mind. But either way, we will see as Green goes up against Cleveland this week. That game earlier this year, we had 13 targets and did nothing. And we were like, uh-oh, A.J. Green. We'll see if he can set that right. And Demarcus Robinson, he's not going to go away. It's Halloween time, right? I mean, he's that vampire who keeps rising from the grave in fantasy terms to thwart Mecole Hardman. And they brought him back on like a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. He didn't get a lot of interest around the league. Andy Reid's always liked him. They took him in the 4th round. He had some character questions. He's developed pretty well for this team. And going up against Denver, I don't think we're going to see Sammy Watkins. Demarcus Robinson could help you. And again, this is another one that's maybe a rock block, where if one of your rivals, maybe the team you're playing this week, needs a wide receiver and Demarcus Robinson's hanging out there, deny them.
Deny that by making that move for Keelan Cole as a 5 to 10%er as well. Gardner's all they got. So they'll keep plugging away. Corey Davis is off the COVID IR list, and he's back. And earlier this year, certainly performing as a flex play with upside, 5 to 10% for him. And Adam Humphries, Deshaun Jackson, you mentioned, would be back. Rashard Perriman is back, by the way. Denzel Mims is set to come back pretty soon. I'm excited. I wish he wasn't with the Jets, but still. But let's talk about these 5 to 10%ers, and hell, throw in Sterling Shepard as a 1% if you'd like.
We're being thorough. As we go through the bye week gauntlet, we want to make sure. So something that I try to do on my waiver wire moves is make sure that unless I really like a player, and this could affect maybe some of our shut them down takes and hold on takes this week, I want almost everybody on my roster with a chance to have their value grow in that week, either by injury or good play or a matchup they take advantage of, something like that. So it's important as we go through the waiver wire gauntlet to be certain that you're only holding a player who's injured or on their bye if you expect they can help your team, not just if they're depth. And these are some guys you can fill in those end of the roster spots because they do have a chance to have their value grow. Keelan Cole had a big game. Love seeing that going into his contract year. They face the Chargers this week. Corey Davis is back off the IR list. Steelers, prone to those lapses in coverage. Adam Humphries, Steelers, prone to those lapses in coverage. And don't you think Adam Humphries should be a cornerstone of the game plan this week? Get the ball out quickly. You're going to have Robert Spillane. He might even have the green sticker on his helmet. Man, Devin Bush, man. So maybe you test assignment football in the middle of the field, things like that. Ability to make those tackles on those quick crossers to Adam Humphries. Deshaun Jackson should be back for Thursday night, and he should be a frequent target, maybe even a chance to have a deep target there. I would guess, just based on James Bradbury's game, he would make more sense on Travis Fulgham than Deshaun Jackson, which could allow Jackson maybe to have the bigger night on Thursday night. Brashad Perriman, and I'll say this about Perriman, he looked like Brashad Perriman, the good Brashad Perriman in terms of his physical qualities, the length and speed, and just how he was moving in comparison to the other players on the field. You still have Joe Flacco, maybe Sam Darnold this week against Buffalo, probably seeing Tre'Davious White, but there's something there. Cecil brings up Denzel Mims could interrupt that when he comes back. Still excited to see him. Considering how these 2020 rookie wide receivers have done, Denzel Mims, I'm really excited to see what he can do. And it's been the delayed impact guys that have had the bigger impact, like Justin Jefferson. Then we get to Sterling Shepard. It's the Giants offense. I don't know if Shepard's going to play this week. So again, that's why you're hesitant. That's why he's a 1%er. Chances are he probably can't create momentum this week in fantasy or on the field. Next week he'll be back. Okay, maybe he'll be the leading target getter for the Giants offense. But what is that worth? Probably not much. He's a good enough player, though, that I'm not totally foreclosing the possibility of value there.
You had me at Denzel Mims. Love that guy. Love his upside. And remember, at the Senior Bowl, wherever our guy Jason is ripping bong loads, he looked better than Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
What's it mean? Probably nothing, but still. Talking about a very talented player who just happens to have to play for Adam Gase. For now. Jets. The hell. All right, Dr. Jene Bramel to talk about the injured tight ends for week 7. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at? We can't be stopped if you have Dallas Goedert, Bloom, 15 to 30%. Spend it all. Spend everything. Get him back. There are rumblings about him being their version of Kittle on staff. Yeah, that's been there for a while. It's not a shocker, Bloom. And they could use him like that too.
Yeah, just make sure he's not out there on the waiver wire. He could, as soon as he's back on the field, and I don't know when that's going to be. It's not going to be Thursday. Might be next week, but then with a week 9 bye, week 10 is probably reasonable. But he's going to be a top 6 fantasy tight end right away. And like you've said, especially with the Zach Ertz injury, it opens up the possibilities for him to do even more. So make sure that he's not on the waiver wire out there. Very, very important.
We saw Gronk Spikes return, and he's 5 to 10%er. And then we got a bunch of 3 to 5% guys, including Trey Burton. Yeah, he's sticking around. Darren Fells, he's so big, yet he's always like wide open
Right.
on his plays. You go, well, anybody could make that, but he keeps getting wide open.
Right.
Like you're forgetting about the 6'8", or it's not that tall. It's not Jordan Thomas, but anyway, Anthony Firkser, 3 to 5% as we're watching the banged up tight end situation. Albert Okuwebunam, when you're targeted 4 times in the end zone out of 6, and you didn't catch any of those 4, but okay. Message received, Irv Smith, 3 to 5%. Logan Thomas, 3 to 5% here as well.
Lots of tight ends that can help you this week. And dare I say, this might be a week that if you don't have one of those entrenched tight ends, a waiver wire tight end might be your best option over someone that you've been going to and has not really been producing consistently for you. Let's go through these guys. First, Gronk. And if you had a Gronk resurgence, I don't know if it's going to happen again against Vegas, but it's nice. And he's the best of the waiver wire tight ends if he's out there just on momentum and reputation. Trey Burton had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown on bye. So let's take the 2 guys that are on bye, Trey Burton and Irv Smith. Okay, Trey Burton is more because Phillip Rivers loves the tight end. Obviously, there's an emphasis on Trey Burton in the passing game. Now, Mo Alley Cox, if his knee calms down during the bye, could complicate things. You love the Indy schedule going forward right now, too. Just real quick, because it is time. I talked about this on Joe Holka, his show yesterday, that we understand enough now, week 7, halfway point of the fantasy football regular season, to look at the rest of the schedule and really understand what we're looking at in terms of matchups. Now, again, the quality of these units change as players get hurt, as players comes back. But Indy, after their bye, has Detroit, Baltimore, Tennessee, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, Las Vegas, Houston. I mean, Tennessee and Houston are 2 of those defenses that you almost want to start everybody against. And they're weak against the pass and the run. And Vegas and Green Bay aren't that much better. It's really a Jonathan Taylor schedule, but also it's a schedule where the Indy offense, whatever their vision was on the passing game side, come together. Probably a lot around Trey Burton. Irv Smith is starting to play really well. He's not going to surpass Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen in terms of targets, and you need Minnesota to keep struggling on defense for him to get enough targets to be relevant. But second-year player could start to take off here as they've used him more, and he's responded. Now, the guys that you can get this week, Anthony Firkser. By the way, speaking of Harvard players, I see the chat room, love you chat room, saying, Fitz to Dallas. I would love that. I would love if we hear that reason that's happening is Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to Dallas. Let's see Ryan Fitzpatrick in a playoff run. I want to see that. But Anthony Firkser, I'm going to call him Firkser Berserker. Clerks, fans of the movie Clerks remember the great.
Did you say? I can't quote any of that scene.
No,
it's called Yankee Blue Jeans or some stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Good job self-editing there, Cecil.
Berserker.
Berserker. He was tremendous last week. He's got good skills, and going against the Steelers again, Robert Spillane. I hope you're ready. He looked pretty good last week, replacing Devin Bush, but it's going to be tested. Firkser right off the waiver wire into your lineup this week. Darren Fells. Now let's see if Jordan Akins is back. If Jordan Akins is back, maybe Jordan Akins should be the 3 to 5%er. But Darren Fells, you can't argue with his production as of late. Going up against Green Bay, the same team that allowed Rob Gronkowski to get Gronk spike back on. Albert Okwuegbunam. I just tripped over it. Okwuegbunam. And again, we've chronicled this. Drew Lock to Albert O was how many responsible
17 touchdowns, 2 years.
Yeah, and Drew Lock wants to make it be like old time's sake there. Even if Noah Fant is back this week, I don't know if that's something that you want to just extinguish against Kansas City. It could be garbage time even. And then Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas made an excellent catch in the corner of the end zone, a wide receiver-esque catch, and had a nice downfield play too. And it is against Dallas. Cease all other things being considered, I'd say play the guy who's facing Dallas this week, whoever that is. This week at tight end, Logan Thomas. And then I'll just throw in 1% of there, Richard Rodgers, because as of now on Thursday night, Richard Rodgers is your number 1 tight end for the Eagles Of course, we can't forget they have Jason Kroom, who caught a touchdown, former Tennessee wide receiver, and they love converting those wide receivers tight end. Don't forget about Hakeem Butler. I just want to mention Hakeem Butler because who knows how many more chances we'll have to mention him because they're trying to turn him into a tight end. So wouldn't that be quite a story for the Eagles as opportunity turns into creativity and Hakeem Butler makes it as a tight end? I'll say, Darren Waller, Ricky Seals-Jones. These are some guys that Hakeem Butler can look up to on his quest.
Now you have me thinking about his Berserker Bloom.
Great. It's a great song.
Skolnick. By the way, Clerks, you and I both worked at gas stations.
Yeah.
Like, Clerks is a documentary. Except for banging the dead guy in the bathroom. Sorry, Joe. Spoiler alert on a movie that's 30 years old. But anyway, okay. Yeah, Clerks, very fitting for our time, Bloom.
Oh, it is. It is. But see, Clerks and all that stuff just stands for whatever station you're at in life. It's still up to you to find meaning and find purpose like we do every week whenever it's time to cue
before we get there.
Yeah.
Josh H2O's. And I always think of Josh Hose. I'm like, you probably should have to say that.
Waters.
Joe. Sorry. Josh Water. Rumors swirling that Kyle Rudolph is asking out of Minnesota. I'm just saying, you did 1%er. We're going to talk about Blink and Richard Rodgers. Kyle Rudolph with the Patriots. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, I'll say this, Cease. Whether it's Kyle Rudolph or David Njoku 1%er, Ryan Fitzpatrick 1%er. Whether it's any of these players that are the obvious trade deadline guys or moves that we don't necessarily foresee, non-obvious players, the trade deadline has gotten more exciting every year. And teams are, this year, I hope, having a lot of clarity about where their season is heading. And I do think we've seen in Miami, I think we're going to see it in Jacksonville, or in the offseason, we certainly saw it in Jacksonville. And when teams do have that rebuilding clarity, then they're ready to make those moves. So, hey, if you can get Bill Belichick to pay a second rounder for Mohamed Sanu, put those guys out there. Houston, a potential team, a fire sale team. So don't let your imagination limit what's possible and how we might have to act quickly on the waiver wire as we get closer to the trade deadline.
And Sigmund, you had that tease.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've said it with me.
Yeah.
But have I said it with you?
Yeah.
So I don't know. You want to change it up? Week 7?
Yeah. Maybe Cecil, maybe when you were in middle school, in the great year of 1988, when most of the great albums in hip hop history, maybe you were a youngster getting into hip hop. Maybe you even signed your friends' yearbooks with lyrics from a Public Enemy album. Maybe Public Enemy helped stir up that rebellious urge in you, as they should. And what's most important is knowing when it's time to say, cue the Chuck D!
Bloom, week 7, shut him down. That was great, brother.
Thanks, man. We need it. We need it every moment we can get this year, including, shutting players down. Okay, Gabriel Davis doesn't look as exciting now with John Brown back and Josh Allen struggling. Mark Ingram, you going to carry him through the bye injured when he hasn't really been doing anything? I don't think so. Miles Boykin, a little banged up, didn't do much in what should have been a great matchup. Tougher matchups coming. Duke Johnson just doesn't look good. He just doesn't look like the same player he was when Bill O'Brien traded for him. T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal. Again, Naeem Hines. I mean, you're going to carry these guys through the bye for what? For what? For who? Not much. Probably going to be as we talk about when it's time to cue the Chuck D, we don't have a lot of mercy here, and roster spots are very important. Zach Ertz, you're not carrying him. What has he been doing for you? Marvin Jones had a good matchup finally. I mean, the good matchups will continue to come. Atlanta this week. You're going to wait. It's almost like you want to drop someone like Marvin Jones so you don't get talked into starting him again. The 3 or 4 touchdown game might come. Good luck timing that. Traquan Smith, with Michael Thomas back, Golden Tate, Daniel Jones, Leonard Fournette. Toughest one this week, Cease. Toughest one of the potential. I'm leaning shut him down. Cam Akers.
Mm.
Are we shutting down Cam Akers? I don't know. I mean, this is a 3-way committee. Malcolm Brown's not going to go away. Darrell Henderson is outplaying Akers. And, of course, Sean McVay could change his mind next week against the Bears. Although, again, so is Cam Akers going to get going against the Bears? I doubt it. Then you have against Miami. Okay, that's a potentially okay matchup. Then a bye week. Then Seattle. Then Tampa Bay. Do we see Cam Akers being a breakout player? In short bench leagues, I think Akers was already a shut him down. But now, I mean, I could pick up Jermichael Hasty, but I have to drop Cam Akers. Drop Cam Akers. I might need someone this week or next week. Boston Scott's out there. I have to drop Cam Akers. Drop Cam Akers. Anything you want to
add? Wait for John Ross to be traded. The chat room's talking about that right now. So, Bloom, if you did shut him down, I'm very curious how you would intro hold on.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to say when it's matters of the heart, right? Yeah. When you're looking to your roster and you're like, I just can't do it, man. I just can't do it.
Yeah, time to hold on. Players to hold on to, or at least that we have to give pause. Sean Brown, Smokey, for me, that's sentimental. It just needs to get a little bit healthier. Has been a problem in years past. Also, Josh Allen, another end of those connections. Remember, Smokey should have had 2 touchdowns in week 1. That's tough. It's a tough call. If I'm weighing John Brown against those guys like Adam Humphries or his teammate Cole Beasley, it depends on how, is this my number 5 or 6 receiver where I'm looking for someone to get hot, or is it my number 3 or 4 receiver where I need them? And Devin Singletary in a short bench league. Again, it's almost like a Paul Charchian sabotage drop where, what have you missed out on if you left Singletary on your bench? And what have you done to hurt your lineup when you've played Singletary this year? Zach Moss is coming around. I guess Zach Moss could have been like a 5 to 10% or 7 to 15%. Not that I'm excited about the Buffalo Bills running game. So do you hold on to Singletary? I don't know. I still think you hold on to Mecole Hardman. I still think you hold on to Mike Gesicki through the bye. I still think you hold on to Raheem Mostert, even though he's going on IR. Jordan Akins, and it's not maybe so much a hold on, but someone just to keep on your radar. Damian Harris is tough. Because I think the games that go the way the Patriots want them to, Harris could still be a viable play. If this offense can't get going, good luck guessing when those games are going to be. Julian Edelman's another tough one. I don't know what to say, Cease, because if we take all of the reputation away from Julian Edelman and you just watch Edelman play, with the exception of that Seattle game, where I thought, wow, Edelman could, he set a career high in yardage in that game, I think. And he hasn't looked anything like that guy. Like, he had enough in him to put up that valiant performance in that game, and he looks done. And could have said the same thing about AJ Green a few weeks ago, and he's bounced back. But you have any thoughts on Edelman at this point?
He's hurt.
Yeah.
It's New England, man. They're so clandestine with their injuries. It's like something's going on where, and again, there's not much left in the tank, but there's more there than what he's shown, for sure.
Yeah,
so, and that to me says he's banged up, and they're not saying anything.
And they've had their bye already, so not a great picture there. I'm inclined to hope that Edelman and Newton can get it going. Curtis Samuel, close calls I'm keeping him because Teddy said we need to get him more involved. He did miss last week with a knee injury. Michael Gallup, I'm not going to give up on just 1 week. Gallup can play. I know that. We saw him at the end of the win. He can do it. It wasn't happening last week. You have to think, and hey, just on the chance that Ryan Fitzpatrick does become a Dallas Cowboy, I would love for that to happen, by the way, in the soap opera. I just can't get out that picture now of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick starting a home playoff game, the Dallas Cowboys. Tyler Higbee is an interesting one because he showed again last week that he can be a downfield threat tight end. The Rams, again, against some of these tougher defenses, I wonder if they throw a little more to the tight end. Interestingly, and why you might want to keep Tyler Higbee, even in a deeper league, Gerald Everett for 1 more week is, believe it or not, Chicago has given up more touchdowns to running backs than quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have only thrown 4 touchdowns against them this year, 3 of them to tight ends. So I don't think that's going to escape Sean McVay's attention this week. And again, I mentioned Brandon Ayuk just because we see with this offense starting to click a little more. Maybe it's Brandon Ayuk getting some of those 6-inch passes. I can complete a 6-inch pass.
That's just a little toss play, right? Just a little toss. Toss it out there. See what you get. That's how the universe works. At least how it should, anyway. Now all I'm thinking about is Ryan Fitzpatrick with Dallas and Gallup. Fitzpatrick to Gallup. That would be cool. That would be awesome. All right. A guy can dream, can he? Dreams and then fantasy and reality. It's all here for you on the Audible. It's a footballguys.com podcast. We certainly appreciate everyone out there for helping us grow our YouTube channel. Make sure to do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click that bell so that you never miss a vid. Many thanks to Dr. Jene Bramel for joining us. Many thanks to Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks. Stay tuned and stay frosty.